And welcome back to another episode. We're on Series 1, Episode 4, and it's going to be about becoming your greatest self. I hope you guys have been following on our Instagram account at community.tm. A lot of good stuff going on there. And I have a really interesting episode for you guys. Because usually I'm like, oh, okay, I've been through this, so I know how to kind of give this info to you guys, or kind of go a little bit in depth of how you can become successful, or like how you can become attentive and like becoming alive. But becoming your greatest self was one of the ones that I kind of struggled with, or I kind of was like, oh, this is kind of intimidating. That's how I first saw it. I was like, wow, because there was like a moment where like a lot of people were like, I am my greatest self, or like something about that. It's like, yeah, I think they were like, I am my greatest self. And it's not that I wasn't going through a lot of things and having a lot of successes in my day. I just didn't feel like my greatest self was present at that moment when that was going on. Or I felt like in order for me to be my greatest self, I would have to be like some next, world solver, someone who like could just, take away every worry. Like that was maybe how I was thinking of like my greatest self to be, just someone who kind of would solve everything and, kind of like not be a human being, but like, exceed human being limitations, or, certain things like that. So it was intimidating. And I was like, I don't know if I'm like that there yet. I don't know if I'm there yet. But as time went on, I definitely was like, okay, being my greatest self, and it's still something that I want to strive on to be, is like really just like, it's kind of just in the words, becoming your greatest self, being your greatest self is like, I would say that, and we're going to talk about topics which involve like having a certain level of growth, setting personal goals for self-development and seizing the moments to get there, and also like following your highest calling. So for me, like, yeah, there has to be a certain level of growth for me to be obtaining this greatest self, this greatest version of myself. And I feel like recently, probably the last 6-ish months, year and a bit, maybe like started with like last year, I started to see myself becoming more of my greatest self. And that's when I started activism, in animal rights activism. And not only was the things that I was doing, which were like, holding signs and talking to people and like getting yelled at and stopping trucks and all of those big things, it was really when I started doing something that I've always wanted to do, is when I started to feel like, okay, I'm becoming my greatest self. So like I've always kind of wanted to do something, like it wasn't necessarily activism, because I thought that that was like just like kind of out of my comfort zone, kind of out of my style of doing things. But it wasn't until I did activism that I was like, wow, I'm just gonna change that to time. It wasn't until I did activism where I was like, yeah, so like now I understand becoming your greatest self is like having a certain level of growth of like what you want to do. So like my next step of also becoming my greatest self would be to like be who I am in like a relationship, in a partnership with someone. I feel like that influences my greatest self, because I'm such a person who, in past relationships and just like my idea of relationship, was so clouded and had a lot of icky moments and like really like uncomfortable moments that I don't feel like I was representing myself in the way that I know that I can, or in the way that I wish that I could. And so now I feel like I'm coming into more of myself and into this greatest version of myself. It's almost like the version of yourself that you're meant to be is also kind of tied in with like your greatest self. You know what I mean? Sorry. But yeah, that's just like what it kind of feels like, because every time that I move into like what I want to do, like, and then I start to realize, oh, look at who I am. And then that makes me see, oh, this is myself. This is my greatest self. Like, there's no other way for me to be anything else in this moment, because I'm being my greatest self. Like, and I think with activism is you're kind of stepping out of, I don't want to say stepping out of society, but you're stepping out of this kind of box, and you're speaking up for what matters, and you're speaking up for, you know, our oneness, our unity. And when it came to animal rights and speaking about the animals and how they deserve to be free, just like how I deserve to be free, and I deserve to be free just like how you deserve to be free, like all that type of talk, yeah, you do feel this kind of like liberation of you're becoming your greatest self, because you're becoming one, you're becoming whole, and that's close to who we are, right? So that's how I have been interpreting it recently, of the past year and a bit now, and it actually feels great. But the first time I heard it, I was like, wait, hold on a second, like, what does that entail? But the more that I do things that I like, it's actually really working out well, and I feel like I am becoming my greatest self, the more that I be true and authentic to me. So bravo to that moment. Really thankful, really grateful. And so that's maybe something that you can harbor if you haven't quite already got the hang of that. You just do things that you enjoy, that you like, that you feel would really kick that fire under you and make you feel really good. Whether that's doing anything, you know, being humble in the forest, whether that's skydiving, whether that's, you know, doing anything, you can still feel really liberated and feel like, okay, this is like my greatest self. This is my greatest version. You know what I mean? I also want to talk about like setting goals for self-development and seizing the moments to get there. So for me, obviously, I have goals that I want to achieve, and some of them are quite big, and I'm not really scared to achieve them just because they are bigger than other little goals, but I just feel like that is one way to kind of get to feeling your greatest self and being your greatest self, becoming your greatest self, is by setting personal goals. So say you want to, I don't know, anything. Say you want to, you know, have like amazing outfits, and you post that on Instagram and you're in all your fits, and you just feel like your greatest self because you're like in all your clothing, you're talking about fashion, you're doing your thing, people are liking it, and like you just feel good, like you are, and you are becoming your greatest self. And I think that's another thing, now that I think about it, is that I used to think that people saying that they are their greatest selves, if it wasn't in my definition of what becoming your greatest self meant, how could they possibly be their greatest self? But I think that in a way is kind of like ego. And what I was saying in the last episode, Becoming Successful, episode 3, is I was saying you have to define your own success. And so now, before I was thinking, well, like, how I defined your greatest self is how I expected other people to react and how I expected other people to be. And if they weren't in the image of how I thought being your greatest self was, then they weren't their greatest selves. They were just pretending. They were just saying this thing because it was a trend. But that is completely wrong, because they could have honestly been their greatest self. And they were. Honestly, I'm just going to give it to them. The people that I used to see say it, I know that they were. Just because you can feel it, you can sense it. They were confident. You can sense that confidence. And you can sense that genuineness, to be honest. So I was just confused, so that's just a projection, but it wasn't like the ultimate truth. But yeah, no, set personal goals for self-development. So just, if you want to do something, set a goal, and then once you work towards that goal, and once that goal is in motion, and once you're doing it, once everything's going on, you'll probably feel like your greatest self. Because you achieved it. Not only just because you achieved it, but because you're doing it. You know what I mean? You're becoming your greatest self. And seizing the moments to get there. So like seizing the in-between, it's about the journey, right? So it's about going through that process, and like, it's kind of hard because like we want to be at the end all the time and then just like live in the glory and live in the, the rewards and all that type of stuff right at the end. But it's all about the journey as well, because it can be a really good journey. And honestly, it was a good journey. It wasn't as hard as other things that I've had to deal with. Personally, it was a very eye-opening journey, and I'm really thankful for it. And honestly, like, if you focus on becoming your greatest self, like, you won't regret it. And I think everyone around you can kind of benefit from that energy. I know that I did, and that I still do. And it's something that I take a mental note of becoming, whether that's, that I just have lots of personal goals. I'm just a very, like, do your goals type person. I remember, like, in school, like, back in the day, elementary and all that type of stuff, when they were like, oh, write 3 goals you want to do. And I was like, 3 goals? Like, I feel like every other week they would ask us to do 3 goals. And I just like, okay, yeah, sure, goals, whatever, like, whatever. But now I'm like, goals are like important. Like, goals are like as solid as writing it in stone. Like, setting goals is very important. And so I'm happy that I do that now. Even though in school I was like, really? We have to do this again? This week we have to set more goals? I don't know. But yeah, set your goals, seize the moment, and become your greatest self. Another thing I want to talk about is follow your highest calling. Now, as I stated before, that it's kind of hard in this society to do that sometimes, to follow in the way wherever you live, what your situation that you're going through, the people that you're around. It's kind of hard to follow your highest calling because of our environment sometimes. Our environment doesn't allow us to be and open those parts of us. Sorry if you can hear a little bit there. I was bending down. But yeah, they are just our environment. That's just how it is now. That, it's really hard to be ourselves in this world and kind of, dive into that and what that means and all of that stuff. It's really hard, but it's so easy to like become other people because you see a lot of other people, and like you take in their habits, you take in their language, you take in everything around them. But it's really hard to like be yourself because it's like that takes a lot of work, in my opinion, to be yourself. It takes a lot of soul searching, if you want to. So it's like, to follow your highest calling, you need to have like moments where you're just like, okay, like this is the time that I'm going to put in to kind of do some searching, to figure out my highest calling, to figure out what I'm here to do, figure out what I'm here, what do I want. And I feel like I'm working toward that, and it's going to be very nice. Like, I don't know, like, even like looking back to everything and just looking forward to everything, and even looking at things now, it's just like I've come such a long way. And I think that's what's also rewarding, is just knowing where you are, knowing where you've been, and knowing where you're going. It's just like can really have a positive effect on you. And then I think once you do the soul searching, once you realize, okay, this is what I like to do, despite what other people are saying, this is what I like to do, this is what I enjoy doing, this is what I feel like I came here for this experience to do. Once you've done that, I feel like you are on a way to a great life, yes, but like also becoming like your greatest self. Like, you know what I mean? So like, if you think about it, your greatest self, you're like, you're stepping into like who you still are, but like it's just like the one, you know what I mean? Because we have highs and lows, but like if you're like your greatest self, like you're in the place where you're just like, yes, you know what I mean? Where you just feel really, really good about your life, your circumstances, your growth, all that type of stuff, what you're doing, who you're like giving service to, all of that stuff, who's giving service back to you, all that stuff is just like, with love, of course. Like, that's what I love. I love genuine service. I actually took, I'm going to change the subject for a second. I took the love languages, 5 love languages quiz, and it kind of explained in depth more of what my love languages are. And my first one was acts of service. My second one was physical touch. My third one was like affirmations. My fourth one was quality time. And my last one was receiving gifts. And just because I talked about acts of service just a second ago, I just want to talk about, like, that's what I mean by service. Like, I love when I can give to someone, when I can do things out of the goodness of my heart, and I love when people can do that back. And I feel like I'm my greatest self when I can be of service to someone, whether it's the little things, like, I don't even know, opening the door, or just being there to like make someone feel good, or like make someone get out of their hard times in a way. Like, I just like giving acts of service, and I love when people do that for me. So I just wanted to reiterate what I meant by service. I don't technically mean like someone who is doing things for you so that they can get a paycheck. Like, I'm talking about genuine like service. And that's like how you can also become like your greatest self. I feel like the reason why it's kind of tricky also to be your greatest self in this world is because there's so many what's the word, like, kind of like it's already like built on how like you should be, who you should like, how you should be, how you should act, like courtesy, all of that type of stuff. And that resonates with certain people, but that does not resonate with the whole. It just does not resonate with everyone acting certain ways that are said to be done. Sure, some of it is really nice and kind, but most of it is kind of just like not first nature. And that can have an effect on someone who is trying to become their greatest self. So, because it's like, oh, I don't want to like, not like stand out, but it's like, oh, I don't want to go against the tide that has been set. But at the same time, I need to go against the tide in order to be my greatest self. So it's like you have to choose in this life, and I'm going to repeat that again. You have to choose in this life what like road you want to take, what road you want to walk. you know? And most of the time I always pick the ones that fuel me, and not just fuel me. Like, I know I make sure that yes, this can also fuel the environment and fuel others. That's why I created community.tm. Like, I really do take into consideration how and who it will affect my personal choices. And I feel like all the times that I had to choose what road I was going to take, am I going to stay here and choose what the world has set for me, or am I going to go and do what I truly feel is what I need to do and who I need to be? And I always pick the road that makes me feel the most me, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's going to have to suffer and feel that pain and all that type of stuff when I can't be my authentic self, when I can't be my greatest self. It's just a lot. So if you can choose to always pick the high road, pick the road that allows you to go against the grain, you won't regret it. You won't have as many as regrets as you will by picking what's already given to you, which doesn't serve you. I mean, not everyone in this case doesn't feel that way, but I'm just saying, in the case that I'm speaking and how I saw it, is that I had to pick a lot of different roads, and I think that's fine. I think that's beautiful. I think that's great. I think that's strong. I think that's confidence. And I think that's where dreams come. Your dreams come. Your dreams can't really live in a world where your life is set up from somebody else that doesn't like feed your soul. You can't really dream in that world. You can maybe dream about wanting something else, or you can dream in that world, I guess, sure, for sure. But there's something about just doing it, like taking the risk and becoming your greatest self. And like, you can always, I guess, go back and on that tide that was already given to you, everything that's there, or you can like become your greatest self and like do it, no fear, no nothing, just do it. And that's what I'll always do. It's not going to be easy. Maybe you can hear from my tone, from the way that I'm moving around it, but that it hasn't been easy. I'm not sitting here and being like, do it, it's so easy. I know that it's really tricky, and it's emotional, sure, but I will say, do it, because when you do it, like, it's like you're floating on a cloud. Like, literally, it's like you're literally, like, see the clouds in the sky? It's like you're floating on a cloud when you can actually, follow your highest calling and be the true you and become your greatest self, whatever that may be. Hopefully it's something with good intentions and positive vibrations and all that type of stuff, but like, becoming your greatest self and doing it in this world and how this world is set up, like, you can honestly, I can guarantee you'll probably be on cloud 9. You'll be on the clouds. I'll see you out there. But when you fear, and when you doubt, and when you don't do it, and when you like have all these other reasons as to not becoming your greatest self, and working towards your goals, it might be a bit tricky. But on the hindsight of this, on the good side of this, is that if you do these few, I only think I had 3 big key tips to do. If you do these, then I guarantee you, and you can always like message on @community.tm. We can always start conversations about this to go more in depth, to go more on a daily basis of how you can continue to go through this, and even myself, like how I'm just gonna break through this moment and break through this any like little doubt or anything that's like makes me nervous. We can break through that. So so that we can live that amazing feeling and that those amazing moments of being your greatest self. Yeah, so that kind of wraps up that episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. It was interesting because it's like I always have these moments and these like, what's the word? I always have like these experiences that I go through, and I just kind of like go through them, and then I just like kind of just, life goes on. You just have them as like a memory. But like to actually speak about this and like hopefully share and give wisdom and love to whom is listening and hearing out and feeling these vibrations, like it's actually really nice because they're big topics. They're big things that we go through, and I hope you do it. Like, I really do. Like, I'm even gonna pressure myself. I'm gonna, like, whenever this goes out, whenever this series and this episode goes out, I really hope I can, like, look back and be like, I did it. Because of this podcast, I went on and continued to be my greatest self. Because that's what I'm hoping happens for me. That's what I'm hoping happens for you. Because that's what this whole podcast is like essentially about, is that we take this wisdom and we go with it. We go on the road that will lead us to our greatest selves, and we do it because we know that this is like the truth, you know what I mean? So I don't know, I just hope so. There's a lot of people out there who like play it safe and they're nice and whatever, and they just are them. But like there's a lot of people who I see and I'm just like, oh, I see your true self, I see your potential. But do you see your potential? Do you see your true self? Because I, at the end of the day, cannot force you to change. I cannot do that. So I just hope that a lot of people make that conscious change to become their greatest self. Because some people that I've met where I'm like, wow, like your greatest self is like life changing. That's really worth chasing. That's worth gaining. That's worth being and becoming. So yeah, so stay tuned. Follow and join the community at community.tm Instagram page. You can also subscribe on the YouTube channel. It is called Community Pink Room, and the SoundCloud channel, which is called the same, or yeah, Community Pink Room. And I just hope that you guys really enjoyed this episode. I'm having a really fun time doing these podcasts. It's episode 4 for me, and I'm kind of just breezing through this, and I'm being intentional. I think that's what I also said that I really wanted to be. I wanted to be intentional. So anything that I post out is intentional. It's coming from my heart. It's coming from my experiences. I'm not trying to beat around the bush about nothing. And I have a really nice view also. It's like blowing. It's almost like fall. Like literally it's almost fall, so there's a lot of wind and a lot of sunshine right now, and I am looking at clouds, puffy clouds. Give thanks. And just a beautiful day. I might have to go take some pictures. I don't know, we'll have to go see. But I haven't really been outside at all today. I like going outside. Now I'm trying to think what I should do. I have to go get some food. But yeah, anyways. So I'm trying to honestly think about going outside. Okay, but yeah, guys, so you know what outlets, platforms to follow, and stay tuned because the next episode is series 1, episode 5. So this will be the last episode in this series, and it is called Becoming Authentically You. So we have becoming your greatest self once you get there, and now you just go full speed. You become authentically you. So that will be the next episode coming for you. So stay super tuned to that. And as always, guys, have a beautiful day. You are loved, you are light, and like, you can do it. Enjoy. Bye bye.